All
Okay,
right,
great.
we're good.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. And going down there, I don't think we need to do introductions. I think everybody's been introduced to everybody, right? So we're all
I don't
set.
know. I think we have a new member today.
Okay, and is that Joe or?
It is. This is
Yeah,
Joe's
I believe
first
that's me.
Hey, Joe.
Hello,
Okay.
everybody.
So who are you
Hi.
with, Joe?
Sorry, I haven't been able to make it.
Oh, that's quite
What was
all
that?
right.
I'm sorry.
So,
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here, and yeah, excited to learn about what's going on in the town,
okay.
and with the youth and everything. So
So
what do you do?
Joe is our appointee from local law enforcement with the Mansfield
Great.
Resident State Trooper's Office.
Oh, welcome, Joe. Good.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you aboard. Thank you. All right.
Appreciate it. Excited to.
Good. How long have you been in Mansfield as a resident trooper?
About like 6 or 7 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not
Good.
too long, but yeah, still
Long
one of the
enough.
newer guys. Yeah, I've been on with at Troop C with the state police for about 2 years prior to that,
Okay.
and I just
Great.
started in town. So
Okay, good. Well, welcome.
thank you.
So for those who was at
You
the
wanna call
last
on
meeting,
folks, Ethel?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to call on folks to introduce themselves so that
Oh,
Joe
I'm
knows? who
sorry.
we're
Yes,
calling?
you're right. I'm Ethel Manzares and I'm chair of the advisory committee. Deb,
Okay, let me meet you.
name to meet you. Deborah, you want to go next?
Yes, hi, I'm Deborah Hulkren. I'm still to be approved as an official member. Community at large, is that the expression? Yeah, but I currently also serve on the Region 19 Board of Education. And am looking to join this group because obviously we have shared interests in what happens with the youth in our community. And I'm particularly interested in all the efforts to put together the juvenile review board or a similar entity in our region for kids.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Henry?
Nice.
Hello, I'm Henry. I'm a student at E.O. Smith, so I'm part of the youth of Mansfield. And yeah, that's really all I do.
Okay. That's enough. Come
Hi,
on.
Henry. Nice to meet you. I also went to E.O. Smith a few years back now, so good to
Oh,
meet you.
great. So you're a local boy then, Joe?
Yes, I am. I grew up in Wellington, and me and my wife now live in Mansfield. So
Oh,
we-
nice.
yeah, definitely want to be part of something like this. So we're excited.
Good. And Jessica?
Hi there, sorry I was muted. My name is Jessica Dewars. I work part-time here at the Human Services Office and I'll be taking notes today.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Lisa?
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Hi, Lisa Gerard. I work for Favor. We're a statewide nonprofit that work with youth and families. I'm our family systems manager for the Eastern region, and Mansfield falls kind of into that. And kind of working with Katie on the juvenile review board. I'm super excited about it.
Good. Larry?
Hi, I'm Larry Barlow. I'm the assistant principal at Mansfield Middle School. So I'm the Mansfield Board of Ed rep. So yeah, I obviously I have a vested interest in the youth in this area and want to continue to help and support our kids that we work with. We all work with.
Good. How about you, Pat?
Hi, I'm Pat Schneider. I'm the Director of Human Services, and Human Services consists of youth services, senior services, and social services in the town.
Good. And Katie, I don't think you need any introductions. I think we all know you, but if you want to, go right ahead.
I'm Katie Bell, she, her, hers, and I am the youth services supervisor for the town of Mansfield.
Great,
And I
thank you.
supervise a wonderful team of 2 social workers and our early childhood services coordinator and an ever rotating cast of wonderful interns.
Good. All righty, so we might as well move along.
Cool.
The approval of the October 19th minutes for those of us who are in attendance. If there's no additions or deletions to the minutes, can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Motion to accept minutes. Oh, hold on. Yep, motion to accept minutes as presented. Thank you.
You know, and can I have a second?
Second to approve those minutes.
Okay, thank you. And I guess we'll just, we don't need to take a vote. We'll just file them away. Okay, Katie, you want to do your report?
Happily. So our update for our month of October, we officially in October kicked off all of our mentoring programs that we're excited to have back in person in the schools. So COPE and Big Friends are up and running. They're a little bit different than previous years. And I think I kind of talked a little bit last time about what our plan was for those differences and kind of making sure we're still able to connect, but having to accommodate some cohorting and some changes in location. And, you know, we've had a lot of great and excited kids come out to that. And we've been so happy to be doing that again. We are definitely this year facing a harder time keeping our volunteers consistent and recruiting as many volunteers as we have in the past. And I think, you know, that's a sign of the reality of what it is to be a college student right now, your first semester back in person after some very strange times and, you know, not being sure how overextended you may or may not be and kind of having some anxiety about if, you know, they are going to want to volunteer going into some spaces, feeling maybe overwhelmed with kind of what it is to be back in the swing of things. But then also, I think one of the things that we're seeing for our volunteers that we have recruited is we're seeing more call outs than we have in the past and not coming, whether it's because they're worried because they, you know, are having a sniffle and they're trying to kind of be very thoughtful and cautious about being around our kiddos who are not necessarily vaccine eligible, or if they're kind of just finding themselves overextended and calling out for other reasons. So that's been a challenge in our start back up. And I think it's a tough one, but I think it's the reality of what we'll kind of see this year. So we've been having a lot of staff flexibility for filling in to help support that. Which has been good to be able to have multiple hands on deck to be able to keep those up and running. But we've certainly had kind of a little bit more of a rotation than we typically like to see for our mentoring programs. But the kids are excited, they're having fun, they're showing up, even if it's not the way things always were, they're still finding it meaningful and enjoying that time. We've did our first book buddies of the year that Sarah Dufresne ran, and she's keeping that virtual just because that's been what folks have really said works for families with young kids. So they had their first one in October with Days with Frog and Toad, and she's planning another one for December. That'll be winter holiday inclusivity themed. I think she's got some snowman schemes up her sleeve. Our Xbox crew is up and running for those check-ins, and that's being run by our two interns, Mackenzie and Ellie, and they're in the swing of things, connecting with our kids there. And then we've also got our groups that are all going. So My Pride and My Voice are both going. And then Kelly's been doing in-school groups for social skills over at Southeast. And then
Katie,
it's not, yep.
Excuse me, could you explain to the new members what all these groups are that you're doing, just so they have an idea, like Xbox, et cetera?
All right. Here comes the big spiels. Oh dear. I'll try to be as quick as possible.
Thank you.
So COPE is our elementary school age mentoring programs. So that is where we pair our Yukon volunteers with elementary school students, and they do lunch together once a week and an activity. This year it's for one semester instead of a full year because of our cohorting. So they do lunch and recess this year, which is new, and the kids are having a blast with that. So it's really just positive youth development. It's for anybody who wants to sign up and kind of build those resilient skills, build those positive connections to a caring adult in the community that's maybe not a part of their school, not a part of their home, but helps them develop those connections. And we know that mentoring is one of the biggest programs that has been significantly shown time and time again to really support positive outcomes for youth. So that happens at all 3 elementary schools once a week during the lunch program. And that happens for typically like an 8-week period while we have our Yukon volunteers and we've gotten them trained before they go off on break in finals week. So we do that this year in 2 chunks of fall semester and then a spring semester. So we're doing kind of half of our COPE kids in the first semester and then half in the second because we've had to break it out by grade. And then our Big Friends mentoring program is our mentoring program for middle school aged youth. That's a similar setup, but it's after school. So kids are signing up. We see them once a week, and it's just an hour or so of crafts activities, free choice to build those connections. And we're actually at the middle school this year, which is a change for us. And we've been really enjoying having kind of that space and that connection and the ability to use the late buses. So it's kind of removed some extra bits that were sometimes tricky to keep coordinated in previous years, where it used to be at town hall in the later evening hours. So those are our mentoring programs. Book Buddies is arts and crafts and book read along for kind of our younger kiddos. And we try to pick books that are really kind of social emotionally geared, equity geared, to be having those big important conversations in age appropriate ways as soon as, you know, kids are interested in books and ready to do some glue and craft activities. And those have been really fun. It kind of started as a program where we had extra books donated, and we've written it into our grants to be able to be really thoughtful about what books we choose. And so that's run by our early childhood services coordinator, Sarah Dufresne. X Block is the middle school lunch free choice time. So once a week for our fifth graders, we offer kind of a drop-in group. They do sign up in advance, especially right now with kind of COVID restrictions, but it's a quieter space to do lunch, hang out with other fifth grade peers as they're kind of getting to know each other, getting used to being a middle schooler all of a sudden, and kind of having a quiet, chill space for lunch and connection once a week. Then our other two middle school groups that we do, My Voice and My Pride, meet in the after school hours. So My Voice is a group that is funded by our local prevention council grant, which we are, as the service advisory board, the local prevention council. And so that's money that we get that is specifically designated for prevention. So right now, the way the grant is written from the federal dollars going out to the state entities, that this year's focus has to be on vaping. And then we were able to add a secondary prevention focus for that. So the group is creating vaping public service announcements that are geared with a youth voice to talk to other youth and to come up with those strategies of what's going to convince youth to make healthy choices, rather than youth kind of trying to necessarily hear it from adults, because they hear from adults all day long. So we really like to capture the idea of what the messaging is going to be most effective to be meaningful and come from our kids themselves. So they do public service announcements. They do other kind of multimedia campaigns to prevent that health and wellness this year. Again, the focus had to be vaping, but because we did so much work on vaping last year, the kids made face masks and stickers and pins that went to all the middle schoolers. That was vaping prevention. We were able to add other prevention strategies of cannabis use, youth cannabis use as a prevention strategy and project. So they'll be doing some projects on that as well this year. My Pride is our middle school age LGBTQIA+ celebration group. And that's open to, anybody who identifies as part of the LGBTQIA+ community, or allies, or people who are just like, I'm questioning, I'm not really sure. And, they want to be there. They want to talk about those issues. They want to connect with their peers around those issues. And that's really kind of youth led, in a sense. They get a lot of say over what we do in those activities, and really kind of have it be, you're here, that's great. How do you want to spend your time? What's going to be meaningful to build community together, and to kind of just have this be your space to be with one another, and to kind of see and be seen and be validated, ask questions if you have questions, and go from there. So that's in its third year this year. It's third year. So that's been an exciting one. That's grown a lot with it being in the middle school after school. I think I have anywhere from 11 to 14 kids on days that we're meeting, kind of coming and going. So that's been exciting to have that many folks join us. And then the social skills group that Kelly's running at Southeast, it's kind of a time limited, just focus on how to build social skills at the elementary school level through, lunchtime groups. And they really enjoy that. And that's been a new thing that she started up this summer and has been kind of carrying through the school year. And then the other new group that we have running this year that got started actually the first week of November is the Mother-Daughter Circle that Kelly is also running. So we'll have more to report on that one next month, but they did have their first group and got a lot of positive feedback on it. So we're excited to have that up and going. So I think that is all of the kind of programmatic things that are on our slate of to-do lists. And then we also do our individual counseling, family counseling, both in office, virtually, and in the schools.
Hey, Danielle is still with you, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, she is off at Cope at Southeast, and Sarah is helping her out today because we had some call outs for our mentors today. So Danielle primarily coordinates the mentoring programs. She's got ourselves all as kind of a rotating cast of backup characters this year. And she does Thursdays at the middle school for in-school counseling. And then Kelly does Tuesdays and Fridays at the middle school for in-school counseling.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Do you have anything else for your report? Are you all set?
So the other updates for the report is actually this morning. I was able to play my phone tag with the other YSBs, and our draft memorandums of agreement are ready to go to our town governesses. So I have sent it on as of this morning over to Ryan for him to look over and take on to, whatever his kind of next steps in the process are, whether it goes to town council or the lawyers, or if the town managers and first selectmen of the 3 towns want to get together and talk before those next steps in the process.
That's a
So
JSRC, right?
That's for the diversion program, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's, a JRB or some other acronym that we kind of come up with what we want to call it, it's the court diversion for youth program.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the other, just finished it this morning, piece that I'm really excited about is the Community Foundation for Eastern Connecticut is the steward for some leftover funds from NACASA. So NACASA was our old grant funding organization for the local prevention council grant. Up until about 3 years ago, Bob Rex had been in the community for a bazillion years and worked with Mansfield Youth Services for all of those bazillion years to help get us funding for all of those programs. And then when the state reorganized, where those local prevention council grants came from, they consolidated NACASA kind of into CRAC. And so Bob retired, but there was some leftover funding from NACASA as an organization that is now being administered by the Community Foundation for Eastern Connecticut. And they put out a call, a very short window call for proposals for projects for communities that previously worked with NACASA for substance use and suicide prevention. So we were able to put together a request for their maximum level of funding, which was $1,500 to put towards the proposed event of doing a in-person Mansfield celebration of Pride for the month of June as a suicide prevention initiative. And so we submitted that today ahead of their 5 p.m. deadline. Everything got approved and written and good to go. So I am crossing my fingers that they will be as excited about that project as we have been. I know we had originally planned to be doing something in June 2020, but nothing went as planned in June 2020. But I think we're at that stage of getting ready to find how things do work. And I know my Pride kiddos are very excited about participating in some of that planning and coming up with ideas and just being excited that Pride is coming to their town. So I think those are my big programmatic updates from the month. It always amazes me how much happens in a month.
That's good. Anybody have any questions for Katie? If not, we'll move on to Pat's report. Pat?
Okay, I'll be brief. We're in the middle of our holiday program, basically getting donations and getting prepared. Again, we're going to be doing it, with COVID precautions. So we won't be doing the adoptive family, but we are still doing gift cards and gift certificates that families can use, particularly focusing on areas where they can do touchless, meaning internet or shopping, where they either have it mailed to them or go and pick it up at the stores. So that does benefit in a couple ways. One is that it allows freedom of choice, so that they can get that best love or most desired gift. And it also helps families to have more direct activity around the purchasing for the holidays. So we're doing, but that's what we're doing. And we're doing that for, November, our Thanksgiving holiday, as well as for December holidays. So that's what we've got going on in that. We have a number of different initiatives around food insecurity, wonderful program that we have going through CBDG grant and with planning and zoning. We currently have, I think, about 25 households that are on that program that get groceries delivered to them and have some access to our drive-through luncheons that the senior center provide. Again, as you all know, groceries and food bills have really gone up like everything else during COVID and have had a great impact on everybody, but certainly some of our families with lower incomes, it's had even a bigger effect. So those are, two things. We are looking for funding from the Austin Foundation for an extension of our Farms to Families grant. A grant through them to provide what we were able to do from a one-year grant from the State Department of Agriculture, because that has also been very successful. Busy, I would say, all throughout the department.
Pat, does a food truck still come by, or have they stopped?
It does. So Food Share still comes by every other week. TFAP is another program that we've been able to do. That's monthly delivery of things. The CBDG grant, which people qualify for, where it's actually individually picked groceries, our regular food pantry, and this Farms to Family, which is accessing local fresh farm goods through shares as well as food boxes 6 times a year. So, and that benefits both the farms, local farms, and families who are households that are low income. So we've got lots going on around the food insecurity.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next on the agenda, you have on the old business sector reports. Katie?
Right, so that was that time that we voted last month to kind of add where you all, as members of the advisory board, coming from your areas of expertise, kind of have this time to share with us as youth services and with each other what those trends are, what those concerns are, what might be new, up and coming that we should be worried about or really excited about, and kind of hearing how things are going out in the world beyond our bubble of it.
Does anybody have anything they want to share?
I can go. Katie touched base a little bit, but the vaping is just something that I'd heard out in the community from some parents that they're concerned about, more for not that their children are doing it, but more looking for education and resources on their end to help support their youth in prevention and trying to catch them more upstream versus then once they've already fallen in. And that's really it, other than some of the anxiety about going back and being in school. But I've heard good things about the programs that Katie and her folks offer in the schools. I've got some good feedback from both youth and parents. So kudos to you. Your programs are working and they're being well received. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? Well, there being nothing else, we'll move on to the agenda and the new business, which is the 2020-22 meeting schedule, the proposed dates. Have you all had a chance to look at those dates?
Ethel, can I interrupt for 1 second? I saw that Larry had come off of mute. I want to give him space.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm fine. I just, I think we're seeing trends at school, just to increase amount of disciplinary behaviors, I think resulting to student need. I think there's a sense that there's an element that maybe the pandemic's over, but it's not. Kids are still feeling it. We're finding that we're teaching, like say, for example, in 7th grade, we're teaching some skills that to 7th graders that traditionally they learned and mastered by 6th grade. And so we're just finding a need to provide additional support to kids throughout their school day. The needs have definitely increased over pre to post pandemic, or pre-pandemic to now. And I actually sometimes some weeks I find that the needs are greater than last year, even though despite last year we were more in the throng of the pandemic, and I think there was just a different tone for whatever reason. And we had kids in our building all last year, so it's not because they're back at school this year. So that's just some of the needs I'm seeing. It is a kind of a week-to-week thing. Last week was a little better than the previous 2 or 3 weeks. And I think building to building, district to district, town to town, there's that variance. But colleagues in my position are seeing the same type of things. The needs are increasing, and hence I think when needs increase, behaviors increase. So we're working on providing that support to students and families.
Good. Sounds good. Anybody else have anything? Any questions?
And I think I'll just echo to Larry, what you're seeing is we're hearing that, I think, from all of the schools in district. Is just there is something about this second school year in pandemic times that our kids have hit a different point than they were at last year, whatever that point is. And whatever we are at the stages of the world where we're kind of doing things a lot more normally and seeing kind of where we have missed some of those skills and start falling apart on things that we would kind of expect developmentally kids would have mastered by that point, but haven't yet because there's been so many disruptions.
So are you guys seeing more problems this year, Larry and Katie, with kids?
I think the phrasing here, what I would say is I think there's just an increased amount of needs and touch points and need for support. We're a building that has 2 school counselors. They're always working with kids. That always has been the case, but sometimes we're finding the need to just prioritize a little differently than we have been able to previously. I think that there's some data that I could look at that would support some of my thinking. There's an increased number of like school referrals for behavior. I'm not saying like that behaviors are like the type of behaviors are getting worse. It's just the frequency has increased. So that's one little data point or signal that shows that the needs have increased. There are other elements too, but all in all, I just think the needs are greater. We're trying to manage and support kids as we always do, but there's more kids that need that support. And we're even hearing from families, sometimes families are looking for support outside the school environment, and they're even having trouble finding the matches of clinicians outside of school. So that I'm sure our outside clinician folks are saying, they're having to turn away folks. And just being in our area, we're having families navigate to Hartford, Glastonbury region just to get support, which isn't great. Ideally, families can get support within their local community. But that's just because I think there's a backlog and there's more need than there's available space.
Thanks. So Joe, are the troopers getting more referrals regarding younger people? Do you think?
Lately, actually, within the last few weeks, we have gone to E.O. Smith more times than I think we had last semester. I've only been in town for about 7 months, but I do remember like the last part of last year, I don't remember having to go over there at all. And lately, within just the last 4 weeks, I know I've been there personally 2 or 3 times, and a couple other guys have been for similar types of things, whether it be vaping in school or found marijuana, things like that. I know we've been called for to come seize it, but it's never been like a,
What about,
incredible amount, just small amounts. And
what about in town in general? Are you getting more kids?
in town in general, other than through the school, I haven't really had to deal with any
Okay.
personally, and I can't think of my coworkers lately having any cases like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me stipulate, like, we rarely have a need to intervene with our local state trooper's office in terms of behaviors that occur in school. And that has, and Joseph, we haven't met this year because we haven't had a need to. So I just want to just really put out that the level of behavior and for Mansfield Public Schools isn't reaching to that level where we're working with the state police. I can't speak to what happens with older, E.O. Smith type A students, but.
Right.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. Anybody else
And I
have
think
anything?
a lot of towns are experiencing an increase, especially for high school age kiddos, around possession of marijuana, possession of cannabis at school now that it is legal, and it might be more widely accessible. So the way that the new legislation is written, it actually is not an arrestable offense for youth under the age of 21 to have up to, I believe it's 5 ounces of marijuana on their person. It is I think it's a citation and a kind of tracking of how many times they are being cited. And then I think on the 3rd citation, it's written that it's a referral to a youth service bureau. But I know a lot of that legislation is still new and hasn't been necessarily codified and rolled out all the way yet. So I think we as YSBs are kind of still hearing it and trying to process it and figure out what all of those processes are. And my guess is that the law enforcement agencies across the state are in that same boat of kind of how do we handle this new change in legislation and what it means for the kids, because the kids, it's not legal for kids, but here's all the changes that have kind of come down in rapid succession of, okay, now what?
Mhm.
Right.
Thanks. Okay,
Well said.
if there's nothing else, we'll move on to new business and the 2022 meeting schedule. Anybody have any problems with the proposed meeting schedules?
Looks good to me.
Okay, yeah,
Looks good.
yeah. I don't think we need to vote on them as long as there's no issues. So
I think we technically have to vote, so then I can send them to Sarah Ann, because they have to like go on the official schedule for Freedom of Information Act fun and games.
Well, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the proposed meeting schedule as presented. Can I have-
I make a motion to accept the proposed meeting schedule for the 2022 year.
And Laura, you'll second it? Okay, Laura's waving her hand over there. We can't hear you, so you'll have to.
I'll second.
All
it.
right. Thank
I
you.
second it. There we go.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Is there anything else anybody has that they want to discuss before we adjourn? Being nothing, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment, and we'll meet in November. Excuse me, the 2nd Tuesday in December.
December 14th, I'm pretty
Second
sure, and I'm gonna double check
Yes.
it. Yeah.
December 14th. Okay, can I have a
It's
motion?
hard to believe we'll be moving into budget season again.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
No.
December.
Don't say those words.
Yeah.
No.
No,
There's no end
No.
to this.
It's like you just get out of it and it rolls right back around.
Did I get a motion? Did anybody make a motion?
Yeah, a motion to adjourn.
And I have a second. Come on, somebody say, I think Laurel will second it, right?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And
Thank you,
have a good
everyone.
month. Have a great
Bye.
Thanksgiving, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you.
you too.
Bye.
Thank
You
you
too.
everyone for being here.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.